McCuistion. For over 25 years, talking about things that matter with people who care. Production of McCuistion is made possible in part by individual viewers, supporters of the Foundation for Responsible Television, CF Accountants and Consultants, adding value to clients throughout the region, the University of Texas at Dallas, creating the future.
In September 2005, a Danish newspaper published 12 cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad, and that led to riots and deaths in the Middle East and other parts of the world. The editor who authorized the publication of those cartoons is Fleming Rose, and he was in Dallas today speaking for the Cato Institute. Let's meet him. Fleming Rose is the foreign editor of the Danish newspaper Jyllands-Posten, which published the cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad 9 years ago, and he's the author of Tyranny of Silence, How One Cartoon Ignited a Global Debate on the Future of Free Speech. Welcome to the program, Fleming.
Thank you for having me.
And welcome to Dallas, of course. We are particularly interested in this topic because of everything that's going on around the world. We're going to come back to some of those more current things. But for that person watching this program who either was not of age in 2005 or has forgotten the background behind why these cartoons were published and the aftermath of these cartoons, take us back to that time and give us some history.
Mm-hmm. I mean, those cartoons, they didn't come out of the blue as some kind of empty provocation just to offend Muslim sensibilities in Denmark and Western Europe. They were published as part of a debate about the issue of self-censorship when dealing with Islam among museums, film directors, translators, publishing houses, newspapers, and so on and so forth. It all started with a children's writer who went public saying, you know, I've just written a book about the life of the Prophet for children, but I had problems finding an illustrator, and we do need illustrations of the main character in a children's book. And according to him, 3 illustrators turned down his offer, and the one who finally took on the job insisted on anonymity. And later he admitted that he had been afraid for what might happen to him if he made illustrations in a children's book of the Prophet Muhammad. So that started a debate in Denmark about, is there self-censorship when it comes to dealing with Islam? And if there is self-censorship, is it just a product of the imagination of these people, or is the self-censorship based in real fear that is justified? And 9 years later, we have to say that the answer to both questions is yes. There is self-censorship, and the fear is justified because people have recently been killed for making cartoons, and in Copenhagen one person was killed when a young terrorist attacked a public debate about the issue of blasphemy and art.
Okay. At that time, I believe your title at the newspaper was cultural editor. Is that
Yes,
true?
that's true.
So this fell under your auspices, and what did you decide to do then?
Well, we had a discussion. I mean, this story didn't start with the cartoons. We had several stories, you know, talking to writers, translators, painters, artists, and then we had a debate. How can we follow up on this story? And there was this issue, is a children's writer, is he telling the truth? He was the only source for this story in the beginning. Is there a problem with self-censorship? And then one reporter came up with this idea, why don't we approach illustrators or cartoonists and invite them to draw the Prophet as they see him, and then we can find out if there is self-censorship or not.
And then you asked, what, a dozen cartoonists to participate?
No, in fact, I wrote a letter inviting all the members of Denmark's Cartoonist Association. There were 42 members, but I later found out that only 25 of them were active. So we received cartoons from about half the members of the Cartoonists Association.
Okay.
And they are very different. I mean, both in terms of the way they depict the prophet and whom they are targeting for satire. So it's false when people accuse us of stereotyping or demonizing Muslims, if you look at those cartoons.
Okay. I haven't seen the cartoons. Are they in your book, by the way, or not?
Not in the English version.
Not in the English version.
But they are in the Danish version.
In the Danish version. Okay. Now, I think I have this right. When you published those 12 cartoons, you wrote in there, among other things, this. So I'm just going to read it to our viewer. Here's what you said. You said, modern secular society is rejected by some Muslims. They demand a special position, insisting on special consideration of their religious feelings. It's incompatible with contemporary democracy and freedom of speech, where one must be ready to put up with insults, mockery, and ridicule. It's certainly not always attractive and nice to look at, and it does not mean that religious feelings should be made fun of at any price, but that is of minor importance in the present context. We're on our way to a slippery slope where no one can tell how the self-censorship will end. That is why our newspaper has invited members of the Danish Editorial Cartoonist Union to draw Muhammad as they see him. Is that what you said in there?
Exactly.
Okay.
And I'm very happy that you read the full quote,
Okay.
because some of those words are quite often taken out of context. So it's just about
A quote taken out of
mockery.
context?
Yeah.
I can't imagine that by another publication. That would be shocking to me. So this set of cartoons, your quote attached to it, appeared, and then what?
Well, then not much happened. I mean, on the day of the publication, I received one phone call from a newspaper vendor outside Copenhagen, Muslim, and he said, I'd been to the mosque today, and we talked about your newspaper, and I don't want to sell it anymore because I'm offended by them. Mm-hmm. But you know, I mean, as an editor, I get those calls every now and then, so
yeah.
I didn't pay a lot of attention to it.
Right.
And I think about a week or two passed by without, very few reactions. But then it all started, mm-hmm. and a few months later, it exploded with these huge demonstrations and violence in the Middle East and Africa.
Okay, so if you know, and you may not, so it didn't really cause much of a ripple over here. You get calls all the time. We actually get a call occasionally from a viewer who says they didn't like me, and what I say, sorry about that. That happens occasionally. But from this time